And here we are at Tony Jackpot Podcast. It's been a while here at the show, but we've been uploading podcasts on Anchor, promoting on TikTok and YouTube and Spotify. Please support us on all those applications. It would really mean a lot. Comment in TikTok and help us out. What should we talk about? Let us know. I am here with a co-host on the 20 Jackpot, Hitting the Jackpot podcast, Dami Drama / Dami Parlays. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Tony. Thank you for asking. Likewise, to reiterate Tony Jackpot's persona and message, subscribe, hit that like button on that YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, Anchor. We are all over the place. It's a matter of you coming to us to listen to our product and content because I don't know about you, Tony, but it's pretty gold.
Yeah, and let's just get right into it here. As a couple of days, we look at sports headlines as sports kind of wind down here in the dog days of summer. Currently, the main games for sports is baseball, but we look at Game 6 of the finals. The Bucks topped Suns 105 to 98, and we just have a few post-series, post-NBA thoughts for next year. Number one, from the fans, we've seen this on the internet, texting us and tweeting at us. Does Giannis need a co-superstar to win an NBA championship based on what you saw?
That's an interesting question, and I appreciate that fan who bravely texted us and tweeted at us. I would say yes. I think Giannis is a great, fundamentally sound 4 or 5 man who dominates the paint. It showed DeAndre Ayton was non-existent when Giannis was on the floor. Now, that being said, what opens up opportunities for Giannis is his ability to drive, right? And the other option is Drew Holiday and Middleton making shots down the stretch. By having them make shots, it forces the defense to come up on them and leaves more open areas down low in the paint for Giannis to create and to score. I think Giannis is at his best when he does have shooters. So, yes, I do think he needs people. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point there, and I think this question is phrased a little differently from our fan. And I feel like Giannis needs a super team, and I say that because the Bucks had Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, and they played as a big three. Those two played like superstars. You look at the big threes: Miami Heat, LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, or do you pick Giannis, Middleton, and Drew Holiday? What do you think? I mean, to me, it's close. To me, those two big threes, if not, I think Giannis might have a better big three. What do you think?
That is an extremely hot take, especially from you, and it is an unnecessary roughness take. LeBron's big three is by far better than Giannis's big three will ever be. First of all, LeBron, he's in a world of his own, number one. 2, you still had Dwayne Wade, who is a point guard, has ability to score down low and three-point option. And when Chris Bosh was healthy, he's a huge factor.
Was he, though?
He was.
The years Miami won it all, Chris Bosh averaged 16 points and 6 rebounds.
Okay.
So
what did Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday average?
Let me look up right now.
And also, what final appearance was that for Chris Bosh? Was that his later one or his earlier one?
The one with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade.
Well, they won twice.
Right. Yeah,
so which one was it?
Wasn't it? What was it? 20.
Well, it was back-to-back years. It was like early 2010s, like 2011, 12, 13, something like that. Either way, the point is LeBron had the ability
not the
to
point.
create.
They won in 2012 and 2013, okay? That's the years.
They
averaged – he got 16 points, 6 rebounds. Chris Middleton this season averaged 20 points and 6 rebounds. You want to look at Dwayne Wade and Drew Holiday? We will.
Again, was that Chris Bosh's Was that his first finals year? Was that his second finals championship year?
2012 and 2013, he averaged the same stats. 16.2
Then what about
points.
2011 and 2012 when they won
2011,
it?
he averaged 18 points. And, yeah,
And how many rebounds?
8 rebounds.
So it was a lot better.
Was it? He
18
averaged
and
2 less
8.
points, but got 2 more rebounds.
18 and 8.
Okay, we'll look at Dwayne Wade, and we'll look at
It's almost a double-double.
Drew Holiday. Dwayne Wade, 2012, 2013, averaged 22 points and 21 points with 3 rebounds and
Got to look at assists.
a handful of assists. He averaged 4 assists. Drew Holiday stats. And by the way, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday played amazing in the playoffs, far better than what their season stats said. Drew Holiday had 18 points this year, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. So you're looking at the exact same player, but Dwayne Wade scored 5 more points.
Exactly,
Okay,
but
so-
you're arguing two very different things. First of all, you're trying to argue that a big three is better than another big three solely off of stats, and not the presence they had, not the intensity they brought. When the Miami Heat, when their big three was on the court, nobody wanted to play them. They were the best team in the NBA by far. Giannis's big three, yeah, they're good, but they're not the best three in the NBA right now. They're not even close.
In the NBA right now, I'm not saying that. I'm just comparing those big threes, the big threes.
And that's
that
what
won
that's
a
what my
national
point
championship.
is. Giannis's big three is probably maybe the 4th best big three in the NBA.
Okay, you can't prove that, but we look at LeBron James versus Giannis. Giannis averages 3 more points this year. LeBron James averaged 7 rebounds in 2012 and 2013. Giannis got 10. I'm not saying LeBron James is better than Giannis. I'm not saying that.
What about assist?
LeBron James' total assist 2012 was 7.
Okay, how many did
Giannis
Giannis pass
had
around?
5. I'm not saying LeBron James is better than Giannis. I'm just saying, looking at the big threes, I think we underestimate how much help Giannis had. He had a big three. He did. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He has a big three. But going and making the statement that it's a better big three than LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh,
I'm not saying.
outrageous.
Okay, maybe I said myself, but I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying it's closer than what you think.
We can agree.
It's a lot closer than what people think.
Can agree with.
Giannis said that he doesn't want to build a super team to win it all, so he won it in Milwaukee. That's fine. But when we look at the facts, he had a big three.
Now, the one thing
He got rid of Eric Bledsoe, replaced him with Drew Holiday, and that completed
which was a great addition.
And that
for the
completed
Bucks.
their big three.
Yeah. And the one thing you can't knock on Giannis was this is his argument. He argues that it's not a super team because he stayed in Milwaukee and didn't go elsewhere. Okay, that's true, but when Giannis stayed, Milwaukee built it around him to bring in 2 pretty good shooters, 2 pretty good defenders to create a big three.
Right, yeah. People stayed in Milwaukee. I agree with you. They didn't really make a huge blockbuster move to complete a team.
They made a few, like Lopez was a good one, PJ Tucker.
But nothing like LeBron James going to Miami.
Holiday.
Nothing like,
No.
You know what I mean. They didn't make a
it's not
huge
Kevin
blockbuster
Durant
move. Milwaukee
going to Golden
groomed this
State.
team. They groomed this team. I agree with that. But you have to look at it and look at Giannis and say, okay, he had a big three. He had a lot of help.
Yeah.
Don't want it all. Even when Giannis was hurt, the Bucks defeated the Hawks.
Yeah.
I'm saying the Bucks need more credit because it wasn't the Giannis show, as most people saw it was.
Yeah, which I think leads into our next question pretty nicely because what the Suns are doing is pretty much what the Bucks already did. Was they have their player in Devin Booker, and they're trying to surround him with pieces to make a super team. Whether you're a Suns fan or not, that's what Phoenix is trying to do. So there's another message that was sent to UR Sports through social media accounts. and it was who has a brighter future and who has a better chance of winning an NBA championship next. Would it be the Phoenix Suns organization or would it be Milwaukee?
Okay, so I think both of these teams definitely have bright futures. No doubt about it. The Suns are young. They've youthful. Even though they have the veteran Chris Paul, they still have a really bright future behind them. When you look at the Bucks, again, very bright future. Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday aren't going anywhere. So, I mean, it's going to depend on if someone gets hurt. Harder division. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of variables. But if I had to choose one or the other, I would say Milwaukee, just because they know how to win, like they just have. And I think the Eastern Conference is easier than the West, where if they have the right matchups in the Eastern Conference, they can make it to the Eastern Conference Finals in a much easier pace than the Phoenix Suns could in the West. If you have Denver fully healthy, if you have um, LA fully healthy, if you have Utah fully healthy, those are three very tough teams to beat.
Yeah.
Compared to not knocking anything on the Nets, that's pretty much it in the East. It's the Nets,
A falling 76ers. A
maybe
young
the
Hawks team.
Celtics, maybe the
Celtics,
Celtics
if they make a
depending.
move.
I didn't even include the Mavericks. I mean, the Mavericks are going to be just as good, if not better, next year. Um, yeah, I'm not including everybody at the moment, but I think we understand the point.
Yeah, I'm actually going to disagree with you here. I'm going to say the Suns have a better future, which is a hot take. It is
Yeah,
a hot take,
that's 2 for 2 with hot takes right now.
but I'm going to tell you why. I feel like the Suns are one move away of becoming excellent because Devin Booker, I don't think he's shown us all he's got. He's going to get better. Where I don't know how much Chris Middleton can get better. I don't know how much Drew Holiday can get better. Okay, so I think Devin Booker has more potential to become a superstar. I think DeAndre Ayton can only get better, and I think they have more depth than the Bucks, more young stars. Cam Johnson, Cameron Payne. Um, I think if the Suns acquire one talented All-Star player, it's depending on if they get one more player. But if they get someone to help Devin Booker not carry the load of the Suns, I'll take the Suns. But for right now, probably the Bucks. If the Suns make a big move, I'll take the Suns.
I'd agree with that. I don't know if a big move is necessary, but I definitely think they need a shooting guard. And I think they need a defender, just a shutdown defender.
Yeah.
And looking at available prospects right now, free agents, I really think Duncan Robinson would fit nicely with Phoenix. He's a good shooter, spot-up shooter, very similar to a J.J. Redick style, and his defense is pretty good. It's improved so far in the NBA. I think he can definitely help take the load off Devin Booker because, I mean, I think you and a lot of our viewers saw during the finals, there's a lot of times where Chris Paul and Booker were making some very difficult plays and making very difficult shots look difficult.
Yeah, and it's all because the Suns' offense revolves around Devin Booker,
Yeah.
and you saw it take a toll on him. And this just got to my head. If you replace Chris Paul with Kyrie Irving, I think the Suns would have beat the Bucks.
Would or wouldn't?
They would have.
Depends. If it's a healthy Kyrie Irving,
Kyrie Irving we saw
see
in the
that.
playoffs this year. If he replaced Chris Paul, I think they would have taken the load off of Devin Booker and they would have won it all. I don't think Chris
could
Paul
be.
he had a fine finals, nothing against him. But I think if Kyrie Irving was replaced with Chris Paul, they would have won it all.
Yeah, and it showed too. Chris Paul, like yes, he was a very good addition for the Suns and much needed throughout the season through leadership and whatever the case may be. But in the playoffs, Cam Payne, he stepped up big time and looked just as good, if not better, than Chris Paul. And some could argue that the offense was better when Cam was on the court rather than Chris. So I think the Suns have a lot to do with the drawing board. I would agree, though. Suns have much more potential, where if they can cap on that potential, they would be a step ahead of the Bucks. Um, but again, a lot of variables. Um, it depends. It depends on a lot of things.
Yeah, no, for sure. So when we think of that question, we see, at least for me, I see the Suns haven't reached their full potential. The Bucks have. So if the Suns, like you said, cap their potential, they'd be better than the Bucks. Transitioning to another headline in the wide world of sports, breaking news, and we're all over it here at Unnecessary Roughness. Right when it came in, Oklahoma and Texas looking to want to join the SEC conference. Question here is, how will this shape college football?
Well, I mean, first of all, let's just let that sink in. Texas, Oklahoma, and the SEC already arguably the best college football conference. Then by adding two other major football programs, it'd be year in, year out, without a question. That would be the best football conference. And if you're not a recruit who wants to go to the next level, I don't know why you wouldn't look at the SEC first at any of those schools. First thought, just off the top of my head. And then I think, okay, football will be the most impacted by far. Then you start thinking about college basketball, start thinking about baseball, start thinking about all the other sports Texas and Oklahoma can bring to the table. The SEC might be the best conference for all athletics. Now, going back to your question, football, wow. Um, it's interesting, and I think the very first reaction is the Big 12 will be dismantled. Um, I
Yeah,
think we're looking
because
at the Big 12 to end very
not
soon.
only do they lose two teams, they lose money. They lose a lot of it
Yeah.
too. Their
They
primary
lost their
source,
top two teams.
that conference
Yeah.
will get jumbled and tossed around the country. And I also
Yeah.
think it puts pressure on the Big Ten because you look at the SEC now. Let's just say this happened. Texas and Oklahoma join the SEC. Jimbo Fisher said it's going to happen. So
He
let's
said
say,
he'd bet on it. Yeah.
and I don't doubt it. I think it could happen. Okay.
I,
So
yeah.
not only
Yeah.
does this affect college football, it affects the pressure the Big Ten has now. They have to make a super conference now. It forces the other conference to think, how can we make a super conference like the SEC? The SEC is a super conference if that happens. Does the Big Ten and ACC join together? Does the Big Ten go
Gosh,
around and pick teams? What does the ACT and Pac-12 do?
Well, I think definitely what happens is you'll have four major conferences, for sure. The SEC would be number one, and by a lot. Somehow the Big Ten, I think the Pac-12 will pick up on the Big 12 pieces. But it'd be interesting to see like what the ACC does. Do they pick up an American team, say UCF or Cincinnati, to boost their conference for football and other athletics? That could be interesting. But definitely for the Big Ten, I think easily Iowa State's a candidate.
West Virginia,
West Virginia, Kansas,
Kansas
mainly
State,
for basketball. Kansas State mainly for basketball.
Kansas State football, basketball, but they haven't been strong in those two. Yeah.
No, possibly Oklahoma State. That could help football for Big Ten or Pac-12. Pac-12, Texas Tech is the closest. Oklahoma State could be bidded. Perhaps maybe they go after the rest of the Texas schools, like Houston. That's an American team. They could swing by, get them. Perhaps Baylor, TCU.
Yes, and to me, this hurts the Power Five conference. The Power Five conferences by far because if these two teams join, it puts the Pac-12 so far behind. So far behind.
I disagree with
It
that.
puts the ACC so far behind. They got okay. So the Pac-12 is the worst college football Power 5 conference.
That's a hot take.
What is it then?
I think you could argue ACC.
Clemson.
That's it.
Who does the Pac-12 have?
Oregon.
Which is nowhere near Clemson. My point.
Close.
North Carolina is better than Oregon.
That's a steamy hot
No, it's
take.
not.
That's a 3 for 3 hot take in this segment.
It's not. Okay. But
Wow.
so the Pac-12 being the worst conference in Power 5,
Well,
them or the ACC.
Yeah, you could say the
So-
Big 12 was worse.
Well, that conference is going to get jumbled. But now you got the Pac-12 so far behind the SEC where I feel like you have to make a super conference with another conference.
Well, let me ask you this. Big 12 gets dismantled in a few years. Pac-12 gets Oklahoma State to join there for football. Now is the Pac-12 that far behind?
If they get Oklahoma State, Baylor, Texas
Baylor.
Tech, they're still far behind. I'm not saying it helps them for sure, basketball and football wise.
Maybe even Iowa State. Iowa State's not that bad. It's close to Colorado. But Iowa State would make more sense for Big Ten. By
Either
far.
way, this helps the committee because now there's 4 conferences. They don't have to leave a conference out of the playoff. You have 4 conferences, 4 automatic bids.
Yeah.
So it hurts conferences, but it helps the college football committee.
I'd go back to that argument because it's an interesting question. What conference is impacted the most outside of the SEC? And I would argue the Big Ten is impacted more because there's always been a debate, who's the best conference? SEC, Big Ten, SEC, year in, year out. But if Texas and Oklahoma join the SEC, now the Big Ten has to be like, oh, shoot, we got to get some people. So would the Big Ten be pressured to get, say, a Notre Dame? Would they be pressured to get an Oklahoma State, an Iowa State?
And that's where I was talking about, like the pressure of it and all. The Big Ten puts so much pressure on them. And to me, it's a smart fit if the Big Ten poaches, like you said, a Notre Dame or a Pitt from the ACC or
that'd be interesting.
Cincinnati maybe on the come up. I don't know, maybe. But for sure, if the SEC follows through and the Texas and Oklahoma does do that, you got to think Notre Dame is next in line for the Big Ten. Or does the ACC get Notre Dame? Who knows? Does
That could
ACC
be.
and Big Ten join? Who knows?
Yeah. Well, and then, it puts – actually, I think that's where the most pressure would be. Obviously, Pac-12, ACC, Big Ten would feel pressure. But with the college football committee going into this new motion of having a 12-team playoffs, assuming the 4 conference champions would have the 4 byes, well, that automatically leaves Notre Dame out if they're not in a conference. So that means Notre Dame would be playing for an at-large bid year in, year out. I don't see that athletic program doing it.
It won't happen. You're exactly right. And what's going to happen is Notre Dame's going to have to pick ACC or Big Ten. And whichever one the university chooses, the other conference get left out. And it's going to create chaos. So I think this addition is a recipe for chaos. And I don't love it. But it'll be very interesting how it shapes the college football world. Do you have any closing thoughts about this new breaking news idea?
It's a lot of moving pieces. Again, it's a theory. It's nothing finalized yet. But from what all of our sources are saying, it's looking like it's going to be more true than not true. I think it's a great move for Texas, Oklahoma. Great move for the SEC. Pac-12, Big Ten, ACC will have to do some hunting, some figuring out. I see the American Conference getting dismantled. Big 12 obviously gets dismantled, gets jumbled up. Perhaps maybe we even see, like, here's an interesting conference, Mountain West. Does maybe a Boise State, does Wyoming, do maybe one of those teams join the Pac-12 to boost their conference up? It wouldn't be a big boost, but it'd be an interesting boost. And then Notre Dame. Will Notre Dame join Big Ten, ACC? I think if it does happen, I think they lean toward ACC just so they can stick with their TV contract and pick and choose which sports they want to join for Big Ten, ACC, because the ACC's been giving them a lot of leverage and leeway. Again, this is This is something that's just going to create a bunch of chaos for the college football world. I think we just got to buckle up and see where it takes us.
Yep, there you have it. Chaos is happening in college football. It's just whether you're ready for it. Thank
And that's the
you.
other thing, too. One last thing. College football, 50 days, less than 50 days away.
Yep, college football coming up sooner than you think. We will be all over it in the future. Thank you for joining us at Unnecessary Roughness and Hitting the Jackpot podcast. Make sure to look at all of our accounts, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Anchor. Thank you, and see you next time.